Core.
You are listening to Core, a show on Code Zero Radio that plays bands located in the Fox cities. A show to find and discover new music. Hosted by Andy McNamara.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. A little special show today at a special time. So hopefully people are able to tune in. Please share this and let people know that we're on right now. Be great to get some questions today. If you have a question for the band, the call-in number is 920-358-0795. So TUK's a band out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Their latest album is called The Story of Stereo City. The album is made up of 11 tracks of various styles, and TUK's a modern band that is playing the sounds that you've heard on the radio and sounds that everyone knows and loves. I'd like to welcome Andrew and Alan from the band TUK. Welcome to Fox Cities Core.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
So this album just came out last fall, and this is the first album from TUK, but you guys have been doing music prior to that.
For forever and a half. We started playing, this was back in college. Yeah. We both went to Michigan Technological University, and we had a little cover band up there by the Four Horsemen. Did a lot of metal stuff, did like a lot of Metallica, a lot of Pantera, Iron Maiden, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But then after college, like we all kind of, the three of us in the band, Alan, Chop, and myself, we started working for this company. Didn't really jam a whole lot, didn't really play a whole lot during that period. And then I had to go and take a sabbatical out in Minnesota to be with a different band. And through that's when I started recording this album. And then we all kind of, so I was in Minneapolis, moved back to Green Bay around right when COVID kind of was in the middle of its bullshit. And then after I released the album, we all kind of got together again. Yeah.
So this album was mainly written by you, Andrew? Mm-hmm.
It was 100% written by him.
Yeah. Turns out.
Disclosure.
Yeah, full disclosure. Yeah.
Are you playing all the instruments then?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
With the exception, I should say, I got to give credit where credit's due. The saxophone solo in Siren was written and recorded by my buddy Dave. And then there was the horn solo in Liquid Mess that was recorded by my buddy Aaron Christensen, who's also kind of at least in the Wisconsin area. So,
for listeners that haven't heard this album yet, it is a great album. You can tell that your influences are there.
Oh yeah,
and
don't hide
the fact that you did all the recording yourself. I know that nowadays with all the software and stuff that people are using, easy. It's not as hard as it used to be. But you say it's easy, but there's no way I could do it. I've tried, but the fact that you're doing all the tracking yourself, how difficult is that to make sure everything is in time? You've got the drums. Like, what order do you do it in? How do you get it all recorded?
I get asked that a lot. Like, what? I was actually just asked by my dad the other day. Is it music or lyrics first? With this album, it was definitely the instrumentals came first. Being primarily a guitar and keyboard player, I actually will start with the drums a lot more often than not. Full disclosure, the drums on this album are MIDI. Not a real person. So it's a lot easier I can pick out my little pattern that I got in my head, my little beat, and I can loop it and play along with it until I find something that I like. This album, I wasn't really trying to do anything new or crazy. Like you said, you can definitely hear where the influences are. Wasn't trying to do anything outside, like out in left field. Just wasn't really I wasn't at a good mental spot when I wrote this album. I was in a lot of tension, a lot of anger and frustration. So I wanted to write something that was simple but was solid. And I think that's where people are hearing a lot of the influences. It was a lot easier for me to focus on the story and the lyrics that I think really encapsulate the personality of the album. But definitely started with instrumentals. It's fun to jam with yourself. write a little thing and then loop over the top of it, and then it was the drums, then it was the guitar, and then the bass would come in it, and then it's like, oh, I want a keyboard part here. It's hard to explain. My brain is just kind of a constantly working machine.
So as far as writing, how long did the writing process take? And were you writing it as you were recording it, or did
Yeah.
you? Okay, so how long did you spend writing and recording the album?
It was not long. When I was, let's see, I started recording, but actually, right what it was like the day. This is a great story. I don't know if I've ever told this. I was working for a beer delivery job in Minneapolis at the time, was to pay the bills, and that day I was supposed to kind of like take off of work and go see a hockey game with my buddy Drew, and that was the day that the NHL cut the season because of COVID, and I was so mad. And I was right about the time too when all the bars started shutting down, so obviously my job's kind of going down the chutes. And I got home early. I was like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to write then. Because I was with the band at the time. We were in a 3-bedroom apartment, and the little sunroom attached to my room we converted into the studio. So I just locked myself in the studio and started writing. From the time I started to the time I left Minneapolis, which was, I don't know, like a month and a half, 2 months, I think I had all of the instrumentals done for the entire album. And then I spent the next year and a half writing lyrics and recording, because that's not my favorite part, like, at all. So I don't know, give it 2 years.
As far as the lyric writing goes, that is what don't you like about it? Is it the figuring out what to write the song about, or is it just coming up with a melody?
Melodies come easy. That's the cool part. It's for me, it's the lyrics, making sure they're not so cheesy, making sure they're not lyrics that you've heard before. But then also, at least at the time, getting deep, getting personal with myself was hard. If you listen to the album, it's like, it sounds cool, it sounds poppy, and it's rock and roll, but if you really take a chance to listen, there's a lot of what I would call deep stuff in it. The song in there, This One's for the Boys Back Home, is an 8.5-minute long. Like, this is the story of this year that I spent out in Minneapolis and all these expectations I had that didn't happen. So I needed to move back home. And it was, it really sucked having to leave the band, but I had to work on myself. And for me, getting deep into my own brain like that is hard to do, and it's kind of scary, and I don't ever like going there. But then you add on top of it, well, I got to make sure it rhymes, and I got to make sure it sounds good, and the melody's good, and it's catchy. So it's definitely the most vulnerable part, which I think for me makes it hard.
So if there was no COVID, there would be no Stereo City album.
Probably not. No. Yeah. That's an interesting thought. Oh, that's scary.
Never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'll let our listeners know if you're not familiar with Andrew and Alan, their other job is sound engineers, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably would have been very busy with shows and events and other things. How was that, coming to a complete halt? Did you guys even, obviously you went into recording, but as far as you said you were going through sort of some tough mental times, did that just make it worse, like having that?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to turn this over to you, because at the time when COVID started, I was kind of transitioning from Minneapolis back to Green Bay, but you were still working for Lighthouse at the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So to talk about, like, everything just kind of came to a standstill. I feel like you guys were called into the dock. And
Yeah, so was it March 2020, I think, is when that all went down, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think we came in on a Friday, like the 19th or something, kind of middle of the month. And our boss was like, yep, we're shutting down. It could be for 2 weeks. We could be done as a company entirely. So like, we just don't know. And I think we gave it 2 weeks as like we'll check back in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks rolled by, and it's like, nope, and then obviously everything eventually, as a country, as a world, did shut down. So the 2 week little kind of mini vacation just got a little more serious. It's like, now do I have to go get a job, or like, do I now what? So it was pretty scary.
Were you involved in any other projects at the time, Alan, or were you sort of hanging in limbo until Andrew came up with this?
Just hanging in limbo. Because I also play guitar, other guitar player in the band, and I'm like I also have a home recording setup with my own mini drums and stuff. So like I've been writing too, since for my own stuff, I guess. But yeah, I guess I kind of did a little bit.
I can't remember. Did you ever find like a different job?
No,
I don't know if you ever did.
no.
Rode out that unemployment, baby.
That's exactly what happened. I was like aside from like our upper management people or guys, I think I was the only one who didn't get another job because my cost of living is so low. And with the COVID unemployment, with those COVID bumps, like it was right around the same as what I was as a regular check from Lighthouse. And and like I had gone through and canceled all by unnecessary, canceled Disney Plus and all the unnecessary little monthly things. So like
Unessential.
Unessential stuff. And so I didn't get a job. I didn't have to get another job, I should say. I stuck around Lighthouse, doing little stuffs here and there that would occasionally pop up. Me and another upper management guy kind of continued on because we had rearranged our warehouse that prior winter. So we kind of continued on just in the warehouse, just me and him, just rearranging stuff. We did do towards the end of the summer, fall, a couple things showed up, show-wise gigs showed up that we did. The Trump campaign stuff we kind of did a little bit, just the staging for.
How's that experience?
Sorry. I apologize.
Interesting. That's because we just did the staging for it. Another company was doing all the other production, the sound and the cameras and the lighting and stuff. So they just needed our staging supplies. And this was right at the end of the campaign, like, I don't know, a week or two before elections when they came around Wisconsin and into Minnesota. So I think we followed them. It was like, we did one in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And before that, actually, we went up to the UP in Hancock, at the airport in Hancock, Michigan. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
So up there in the winter, snowing, came back down for less than a week, and then we went down to La Crosse, did a thing at a little racetrack, dirt racetrack in the middle of it. Then we went across into Minnesota. And then that just got shut down by the state. I was originally at an airport, and then like the airport didn't want it to be. So I don't think the airport wanted to be there. And then the way we had set up the stage, as the sun was going down, their crew, their video guys were like, "Yeah, we can't do it here because when he's at the time of day when he's talking, the sun will be pointing directly into the cameras."
That's fine.
So we can't do it here. We're going to have to find another place.
It's amazing the planning that goes into that kind of thing.
I would have never thought about something like that.
Yeah.
No thanks. I'm an audio guy.
And this this is at 6 p.m. after we had set everything up already. So we like tore half of it down, came in the next morning, tore the rest of it down, loaded it back in our semi, and then drove down the road a couple miles to this other place in a parking lot of some manufacturing place.
Brutal.
And we got halfway through setting it back up, and then that's when the state was like, "Yeah, you're not doing this. You're not doing
that just to keep the company alive."
You're not. We're not doing this. Not in our state. And I don't know if that was just a COVID thing or if that was like a political thing to, because I think Minnesota is kind of a blue state. I think
that was still around like the George Floyd stuff too. Because I remember I moved out like the week after that happened.
Yep. Like, and that was still fresh too. So
yeah.
And then we drove back from Minnesota to Green Bay. I got 4 hours of sleep because on our way back, they called us and like, can you do this in Flint, Michigan? So, and then of course, like, well, I suppose, why not? It's gonna pay the bills, in which
Yeah.
it did. Trust. Yeah. So we drove back. I got like 4 hours of sleep in Green Bay, and then we kept on trucking to Flint. Or it was outside of Flint, but you know,
Eastbound and down.
yeah.
Sounds like working for a sound production company is a lot like touring. Actually, obviously, like touring with the banks, you're hauling equipment around.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like touring in the sense that, yeah, you're working with a lot of bands, providing gear and all that, but the benefit of I get to sleep in my own bed. I'm not, after the show, I'm not getting on a bus, getting on a 15-passenger van. I get to go home. So,
So, Andrew, when you had this album ready to go, when did you present it? Like, how did Alan and everybody else get it? I believe the other players, is it Alaric?
Alaric.
Alaric
Al.
on bass and Michael on
Al.
drums.
Yep.
How did they get involved in the project?
Let's see. So when I moved back, I think Michael, we call him Chop, was the first person who kind of reached out to me going, hey, like I've been listening to your stuff. This was before it was even released. I just kind of shown off some demos. And little did I know that he was actually like learning them as I would kind of show him. So he's like, yeah, we should jam sometime. I was like, okay, yeah. So I remember we jammed once. It was on Rhonda the Shadow. And my intention was, it's all coming back to me. My intention was to jam with him so that he could actually record the drums to the album so I could release them with real drums. But by that point, I had actually gotten so used to the MIDI drums and the sound of them, I couldn't mix them in. And I felt so bad about it because he had spent all this time learning them. So it did start off as just Chop and I. And I don't know if it wasn't too long after that.
Yeah. Because you had your release party.
Yeah.
A listening party, listening/release party.
Yeah.
That we listened to it all.
So I think it was just Chop and I jamming at that point. We set up this big listening party in Lighthouse, set up the big PA and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after, you're like, I have way too much gear that I've spent way too much money on, and to justify this to myself, I need to play. So it's like, well, I'm looking for a guitar player. So
yeah, because I had just bought a guitar, and one of my stipulations was, okay, if you buy this guitar, now you're going to start a band to use this thing, because I had been living in Green Bay for 2 years and didn't like start a band or nothing yet, and I bought this guitar that was probably too expensive for not having a job for a year. And then I was like, okay, if you buy this, you're gonna start a band. And so the listening party came out, we went to that and then enjoyed the stuff, and then I hit him up. Was like, so are you looking to like play this stuff live, or like what,
never had any
this
intention of
thing?
it. It was like, well, I have too many people asking me about it now, so I guess I kind of have to, don't I?
Yeah.
Oh, and Alan, I've seen you've gone live on your personal Facebook page and playing guitar and recording stuff. So obviously, by watching that, I know you're a phenomenal guitar player. It looks like your tastes lean towards metal.
Well, a little bit, a little harder.
How is it hearing Andrew's stuff? I mean, and Andrew, are you happy with what Alan can reproduce?
Oh, yeah. Well, what's cool about it is obviously the album is what it is. It's not nearly as heavy. See, even before this, I was recording some metal stuff too. When I was recording Stereo City, I kind of wanted to take a break from that. But now the stuff that you heard it here first. We're working on some new stuff. That is a little heavier. So now having the knowledge that he's got and just the technicalities of it and the way that he plays, it's really inspiring to play that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just new flavors.
Yeah, and it translates well live too.
So Alan said he was writing a lot of stuff during the downtime. Is any of are you taking ideas from the rest of the band, or is this going to be solely an Andrew written record?
Well, that's a really good one. This next one I hope to have a little more help with. Yeah. And right now it's kind of sounding like it. Like he actually has more songs, more ideas coming in than I do currently right now. So we're kind of riding the Alan train right now. Especially with the heavier influence I want on the next one. So I think it's more of he brings it in. We have this relationship of I have the ability to take the stuff and go, hey, I really like this. I think it would be cooler if we did it more of this flavor. Just to have another fresh set of ideas is always really nice. So we're hoping to use that on the next album for sure.
Yeah, because like my problem is this has been like since I kind of first was able to like play my own, like create my own stuff. Is like especially lately, I can just lay down riffs, just riff salad just all day. But like building a song is like not. It just can't. It's hard for me to do that, to make full songs in a sense. But if you need a riff or something, I just all day just whip one out. Like I don't know. That's just the way my brain is, I guess.
Well, this question is going to go a little bit different direction, and I'm sure this question is asked all the time.
Oh no.
Where did TUK get the name? Where did you guys get the
here
name
we
TUK?
go. All right. Yeah, it has been asked a lot. I'm trying to find the abridged version because this story could take up the entire hour if I wanted it to. Long story chopped down. In college, I had the opportunity, we'll call it that, to play a small role in a musical called The Producers. You might be familiar with it. And there's a scene where the two main guys are singing about how they want to be producers and we want to create this play and, low-key scam people. And there are 5 chorus girls in this scene that pop out and they do this dance thing. I don't know if it was 2 weeks before the opening of the show. I already had like a smaller part in the show. But 2 weeks before opening, one of my professors calls me over and says, "Hey, we need to talk to you for a second." I'm like, when one of your professors calls you like that, and I go back to front of house and all of my professors are in like this circle, and then I join it, I'm like, oh my, it's like somebody dead. They're like, did something happen in my family? Like, do I need to go home? And they're like, so one of the chorus girls is academically uneligible to perform in the show. So we need somebody to fill in for her spot. And I'm sitting there going, her spot? So why am I here? Long story short, we get to I say, sure, whatever. They're like, you'll be on stage for 10 seconds, whatever. So we go back to the costume shop, and my professor, bless her heart, hands me this piece of cloth. I'm not going to say a costume, because a costume implies a certain amount of square inches of clothing. She hands me this little piece of cloth.
I think I know where it's going.
And she goes, try this on. So I try it on. And it's a chorus girl outfit. It's about yay big. It's yellow, sequiny. It's on my Facebook page. You can find it.
Is it on Facebook?
It is. It's on my personal one. I haven't posted it.
I knew there was a picture on it. I didn't realize it was just out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's out there for the entire world to see. And, when you wear a small costume like that, you have to, as they say in the industry, tuck and roll. So that summer, Lighthouse was my summer internship throughout college, and we really love our nicknames. So it was my buddy Drew who came up. They were talking with our secretary at the time. He's like, "What should Andrew's nickname be?" Well, I personally, I think it should be Tuck and Roll, but then that was too long. That was too much of a mouthful, so they just shortened it to Tuck. And that nickname has stuck with me for years. And I think it was just at the time when I was trying to come up with the band name, I wanted to keep it lighthearted, keep it funny. I didn't want anything to be too serious. Not the album wasn't too serious. It's poppy, it's fun. So like, let's do Tuck. I tried to copyright the name or whatever, and TUK was used everywhere. So I tried finding all sorts of ways to kind of mess with it and make it my own. So it ended up being just capital TUK, which is still used by a couple other bands. But like, if we get that big and we have to worry about it, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it, sort of a thing. So that's that story, abridged.
Alan, you're okay with that band name?
Yeah.
Oh, we get told by our managers a bunch that our next photo shoot is going to involve prom dresses. So we think it'll be, and not like nice prom dresses, like really slutty prom dresses. It's going to be a time and a half.
Sounds like Alan, you're already in for the long haul, so there's no turning back.
It is what it is.
This is the point in the show. It's a very popular segment we do. It's called Band Reaction. So we play a clip of the band talking about something, and then we get your reaction afterwards. The clip we're going to play is with a Fox Cities band called Doozy. They were on like a month and a half ago.
Sounds familiar.
So let's do band reaction.
Band reaction. Band reaction.
So have you guys had any big equipment mishaps or anything during shows?
Andy forgot a guitar once.
Once I forgot my guitar.
I forgot my throne one time.
Yeah.
Had to use
He had to use a bar stool chair thing, and then that didn't work, so we had to run to Walmart and get a rolly chair.
and then it kept rolling around, so it took the wheels off.
That was 2 weeks ago. I'm just kidding. No, that was at the very beginning, pretty much when we first started
We're still
doing
figuring
this
things
seriously.
out.
Yeah. One of the first shows we were doing, actually how we met Mark Goldie is we won a competition at the Boys and Girls Club when we were like 20 and 19 years old. And while we were playing, one of the sound guys' amps just exploded on stage and there was just smoke going everywhere. And
There was real fire.
Yeah, we were like, we're just going to keep playing. So we just kept playing through it. We didn't.
Just smoke and fire in the background.
So yeah, I think those happened to, not those specifically, but things like that always happen to everybody. And that's part of you just play through it and you just go with it.
Yeah. Power surges and then just stuff shutting off in the middle, and then you're still playing. You can hear the drums because they're acoustic, but then you're just like, oh, what happened to literally everything else?
And then
Andy's still singing.
it probably looks funny because we just like, our thing is just act like it's part of the show. So when all this mishap is happening right behind us or in front of us or on the stage with us, and we're just playing through it, and other people are like, should that be on fire?
Yeah, anything's a smoke machine if you use it wrong enough.
Well, you guys, I know you've seen a lot during the Lighthouse stuff, but has any major malfunction happened to you guys during the TUK shows or any previous band you've had?
Trying to think. We haven't played enough shows for there to be any major malfunctions, and it's hard because it's like we're all roadies. Like we should be prepared for all the malfunctions, right? The one I don't know, just recently played at Notre Dame Middle School for the 6th through 8th grade. That was a blast and a half, by the way. And so we're setting up, and I think I just forgot like a little short of all the things you forget. You forget the little mic stand to mic up your own damn guitar, right? So I ended up packing just like some cases we had, and we just like taped the 57 like just in front of the cab. Ended up being one of the better sounds I'd ever created out of the damn thing. But man, the first virtual show we did, this is a good
Before
one.
you go to the virtual show, did you guys did you try to sell stuff to the 6th and 8th graders? Because they've got expendable income.
We didn't think of that. We didn't bring any merch. But our TikTok game, I guess our numbers kind of steadily climbed after that one. Thank God. But no, it was our first virtual show. The night before, we get things set up. We have the cameras, the lights, and all the audio stuff. And I had the harebrained idea, like, hey, we should try the stream and see if that works. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So I get my little ThinkPad out there. It's got 8 gig of RAM. The graphics card's from 2008. We get it all plugged in, hardwired in, and we're just dropping frames like it's no one's business. Like we can't.
Frozen.
I think at one point I think we had to lower it to like 480 just to get it to constantly stream. It was still choppy and this setup was not supposed to take this long. We ended up staying at the warehouse for like 3.5 hours just trying to troubleshoot why our stream looks like a frozen potato. We eventually figured it out, and this next live stream, we promise, we're gonna have a bigger computer for it, so it's gonna be able to handle it. But that was at one point just having the thought of, oh my God, we're gonna have to cancel this show if we can't stream this, if it's gonna look like crap. I don't want to put it out there. But no, we figured that out, and that was maybe one of the more stressful ones. But no, other than that, we're too young to have any catastrophic failures yet.
It's just scary thinking about because they're coming, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
sometime.
Well, you guys have another streaming event next week.
Sure do.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with that and how people can view it?
Yeah. So if you go to the Facebook's kind of where we're running things right now. We're trying to get on Twitch, but that's maybe for a next future show. But if you go to our Facebook page, there's the live event for this upcoming Sunday, the 20th. It's $5. Come see our show, and we, as we're talking to our management, going, hey, if we're going to do these virtual shows, which we are kind of aiming on doing at least once a month, if we can't do a normal in-person show, because obviously that whole industry is still a little weird right now. But if you go to that page and watch it and pay $5 for it, and what we are doing is we are playing the entire album, Story of Stereo City, in its entirety, front to back. There's some songs on there that we haven't played in a while because we've been playing some shorter sets, and a song that we have never played yet, which I'm still not emotionally ready to play yet, but it's going to happen. It's going to be great. So something a little different. Every virtual event is going to have a different theme to it, and this one's just the full album run through.
$5 is really reasonable, especially to have the convenience of watching it in your own home.
I would like to think so. You don't have to leave your house. It's a Sunday night. You should be home anyway. There's no football to watch after this week. So we're hoping to get a good turnout.
Rams or Bengals?
I haven't been following either one of them. As soon as the Packers dropped out, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm voting for the Browns. I think I'll actually go with the Bengals on this one. Not because I have any reason to believe that. I just, whatever, picked one.
Sure,
I like the color orange. I don't know.
It's Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
Sure, yeah.
Cool.
First question's from Ivy.
Yeah.
Ivy wants. Well, Ivy states, "Cool guitar, Alan. How many guitars do you own?"
Ooh.
I gotta count. Well, let's see. I got 2 Fenders, 2 Gibsons, the 7-string, the Schecter, the LTD. So I guess that's 7 electrics, 1 acoustic, and 1 bass. So that's nine. 9 instruments. Right? Yeah. Sounds about right. I think.
Can ever have too many, or do you have your eyes on others?
Well, I'm always looking. Just one of my daily habits is just scrolling through Reverb on my watch list.
Dangerous.
But I'm pretty content on guitars. Honestly, I'm fine on everything else. But like maybe a new amp would be okay, I guess. But probably
Always.
not. We gotta play some shows first.
Yeah, we got to make some money.
I know warrant getting a new amp.
Well, thank you, Ivy, for the question. We have a caller on the line. You're on the line. You're on the show with Andrew and Alan. What's your question?
Hey there, I had a couple of questions for you guys. First of all, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about influences. Listening to the song there, I mean, I definitely hear some Queen. I'm just wondering if you had any other strong influences, and if Queen is indeed one of them. Then also, you had mentioned earlier that you when you had written this, you were used to the sound of MIDI drums, having written it that way. I was wondering if you had ever considered using electric drum kit playing live, and if so, why you hadn't done that, or if not, just curious why. That's about it.
Awesome. Great
Yeah.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
Influences. Yeah. Queen's all over the place. I think it was at that time, like, maybe a year or two after Bohemian Rhapsody was released, everybody was kind of going through a Queen phase, right? That's about when I bought my Vox, which is kind of the main tone I like using live. So yeah, Queen's a big one. Heavily influenced by Foxy Shazam, the album, specifically the album Welcome to the Church of Rock and Roll. That was a favorite. There's some Metallica in there if you listen to it. There's My Chemical Romance in there if you listen to it. Some Green Day, some Black Keys, some Black Sabbath in there. Elton John. I can't forget Meatloaf. Between Meatloaf and Queen, that's how This One's for the Boys Back Home came alive. So that was a rough one, a rough departure as of recent. That's kind of the big ones. Yeah, great question. I get
I
asked
think
that.
the second one was about MIDI drums.
Yeah. So, of course, I would love to, not necessarily to your question, I would love to obviously get a real drummer in for the next album, but using electronic drums live, um, I wasn't really a believer in it up until recently. I engineered a couple shows where the bands used electronic kits, and I'm constantly amazed at
Yeah.
how good
Mhm.
they sound, and the obviously lack of stage volume, which helps us tremendously. I think it's all about just having the right kind of kit with the right kind of sounds loaded into it. I'm not against it. I think it's definitely worth a shot. I don't. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's cheating because you're not miking anything up," and like, whatever, dude.
Makes it easy.
It's 2022.
I
Let's get over it. Here you go, Chop. Buy an electric drum kit,
Yeah.
and we'll figure it out, or we'll start a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. Start our
And the
OnlyFans.
thing with the electric kit is it's only as good as the sounds that are loaded into the brain or the processor.
Yeah.
Or they're good writing tools because you can hook them up to your computer, usually with just like a USB cord.
Yeah.
And then your drums sound like whatever drum plugin you're using.
Yeah.
So, like Superior Drummer, you can just have on your kit or any of the other plethora of drum plugins out there.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those, like the more CPU that's on stage, I get more nervous, just because stuff doesn't work. But then you can make the equal argument of, well, it takes up much less space. You don't have to worry about broken drum heads. You don't got to worry about a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's worth an experimentation. I'd love to try it out. Definitely not against it. That's for sure. Awesome question, especially with the, well, if you use electronic drums in the album, why don't you use it live?
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
We've got some other comments coming in here. We've got a question here from Joe. He wants to know how much alcohol was involved in the making of Stereo City.
Thank you, Joe. I know like 100 people named Joe, but I know specifically which one.
I know.
Good question. How much alcohol? Not as much as you would think. There are a couple songs that I maybe had to take a swig or two. Liquid Mess, if you listen to it, it's all about, not even necessarily about alcohol, but it's more about everybody's got their vice and how you can control your vice, to either help you with something or it'll completely break you. Yeah, I did a little bit, especially in the very beginning writing this album. This was COVID hit, and you're getting done with my job. It's hourly, and the bars are shut down, so I'm home by noon. And you can't drink all day if you don't start before noon. So a lot of PBR. And when I moved back home to finish up the lyrics, there's one song specifically I remember I started the lyrics one day and I finished it in the same evening. That was some Tullamore Dew. That was when I wrote Rudy, and that those lyrics had to come from a little deeper within. Sometimes, having a little a knuckle or two will help get those out. So not too much. I didn't turn into an alcoholic when I wrote this album, but it does help a little bit. It kind of breaks that first wall, that first barrier.
Thanks for. I'm sorry, Alan. Were you going to say something?
No. Not really. I mean,
Joe, thanks for the question. We had a comment here from
Thanks, buddy.
Bob Minter. He says that Budgie cover was brilliant.
Thank you. That was the last song that got recorded, and it was kind of off of a whim. I grew up with the Metallica cover of that song off of Garage Days, but when I heard the original from Budgie, I actually enjoyed it more. I thought it had a much higher energy to it, and I liked how they played it in A, and Metallica played it in E because they're Metallica. But I can't sing either one of those, so I put it in F sharp. And that riff to me is just so powerful. I remember the first time playing it, little octave pedal on the main riff. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta do a cover of this. And then I remember recording it, going, this is a cover. I'm going to include some other songs in there during the guitar solo, so you'll hear. The White Snakes, Still the Night, that little riff in there during the solo. There's the War Pigs, little riff in there, and then there's the other one. The first one I start with, and I always forget it. Iron Maiden's Tail Gunner, that little your tail gunner. Yeah, thank you. It's a fun song to play. We like starting with it. That's for sure. It's a good way to get the show rolling.
We've got another question here. This one was sent in by DJ Bear, who hosts a show on Code Zero called Amped Up. It airs Tuesday night, right before our newest show, the Ike Rumba Show, which is a must listen if you haven't heard it. His question is this, and kind of goes with what the comment we just got. It says, I love the cover of the Budgie tune, Bread Fan, you guys did. How did you find that song to cover, and do you have plans to record other covers? So I guess that last line there we can address.
I mean, we could turn into a Metallica cover band
any day,
on
a
whim. Just wham, all Metallica songs. But yeah, others. I mean, I'm sure there'd be more.
I mean, we've played a few. To have a plan to actually put those into an album, I'm not really sure, but what all do we do? A bunch of covers that we do. Stone Cold Crazy, it's a Queen one. Sweet Leaf.
Yeah, I was about to say Black Sabbath one.
Yep. Yeah. We do
the Sturgill Simpson.
You Can Have the Crown. It's actually like a country song. Sturgill Simpson kind of being like a newer artist. Sweet Play, all sorts of stuff. I'm trying to think. Is there one more that we did?
Could have been.
My Body.
My Body. Did we actually play that one?
I think our first show we did actually play that one. Because it started. Chop mentioned it to us. Because is it Volbeat?
Yeah.
That does a cover of it, and then I forget who does the original.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've done covers. Obviously, when you first start, we have the album, which is I don't know, like an hour. But our first show we played a little longer, so it's like, well, we gotta pick some songs to not just cover time, but to also like, hey, these are the songs that kind of help influence the album. So I think that would, if anything, I've had that idea before of just doing a cover album of, hey, here's how, not just Stereo City, but maybe the rest of the albums to come. Like these are the songs that kind of help that along, 2 or 3 at a time, and then release it later on. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Bear.
Yeah, good one.
We've got another question here. This one is from Alex Sherry. Summers, are we ever getting a follow-up album to Blacklisted first album, or is this the spiritual successor?
Real fan.
Damn it, man. Yeah, so there is a second album that is supposed to be the follow-up to Blacklisted. This is metal stuff. It's done minus the vocals and the lyrics that have not been recorded yet. This was right after I graduated college. This album's gone on 4 or 5 years old now, just sitting on a hard drive collecting proverbial dust. It's coming. Can I say when it's coming? Absolutely not. I have no idea. But it is coming. I promise. I swear to you all. If there's a big enough campaign to get it done. Maybe it could turn into some TUK stuff. I think if I rework it. So we did talk about that. I think Chop and I have kind of briefly talked about that. I was playing it in the shop one day. He's like, dude, this is some good stuff. I think we could kind of turn this around. So.
Well, speaking of Chop, he just commented. He said
hi, buddy.
that need to play more gigs so he can afford another drum kit.
Yeah. Sounds all right.
Thanks, Chop, for tuning in.
For shows.
Let's talk about it. And of course, if you've got a message or you want to call in, please do so. We've got like 10 minutes left, but I want to talk about the some of the new album again.
Sure.
What I noticed when I listened to Stereo City right away is kind of what you addressed. This one right here, which is a fantastic album. I don't think
front to back.
I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves, but I heard that in Stereo City. I'm like, okay, TUK, where have you been my whole life? But, when you're writing songs like Stereo City, when you're coming up with the vocals or even the music or whatever, do you sometimes think, well, what would like Foxy Shazam be writing right now? Because it's not technically, you're not stealing or covering something. You're just writing it in the mind frame of what would they write a song like.
Absolutely.
And not to just keep talking here, but I noticed other things too, like, you can hear an Elton John influence here and there, like at the, parts of this one's for the boys back home and stuff. But And I think that's why it said on your website or one of the events that it is the sounds you hear on the stereo that lives on. And is that kind of, I know you mentioned the next album's going to be a little bit heavier, but is that just it? Does that make it easier to write for you? Just using your influences instead of just stressing to try to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Yeah, I had a lot of those moments. And I like the way you said it. It's like, is this something that Foxy Shazam would be writing right now? I think to me, it comes down to what would they be writing, but also not trying to just copycat. Because anybody could write maybe Foxy's not a great example, but anybody can write a Metallica riff. Anybody can write a Slayer riff or a Queen riff. If you have the tools, it's too easy when you get the tone, especially if you get a tone in. You know, I was playing through my Vox, and everybody can dial in their Brian May guitar tone and come up with these 4 or 5 part harmonies that you hear in Siren or Boys Back Home. But then I think for me, it's the second level of, okay, great, this is what they would write. How would you write it though? Like this is Andrew Summers. This is TUK. This isn't Queen. This isn't Foxy Shazam. Because then that keeps you out of this scary part of, okay, at what point do I just become a tribute band without becoming the tribute band, right? I don't want to sound like Foxy or Queen or Metallica. I want to sound like this. I want to bring the best parts of these bands and bring them into this.
Well, it's interesting too because Foxy Shazam, I mean, they're kind of doing Queen, like you said. So everything kind of builds on everything else, which I think is, again, if you haven't listened to this album like front to back, it's a lot of different styles, which a long time ago I heard, a band can't be all over the map. It's hard to peg, where they are. But then you listen to this and it's like for some reason it just feels good because you are getting a lot of different sounds. If somebody came up and asked you and Alan, like, hey, how would you guys describe TUK? What would you say?
I'm going to hand that one to you for a second. Good luck.
I mean, like, definitely rock and roll. But it's not because I think there's a kind of a resurgence of rock, like almost like 90s grunge band rock, like Pearl Jam sounding kind of rock bands out there nowadays. But it's not quite like that kind of rock. But it has that theatrical sense to it.
Theatrical.
Which kind of comes from, like you said, My Chemical Romance and stuff, Meatloaf and stuff. So there's that in there.
In a phrase, is it theatrical rock?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, the songs we're writing right now, that there's definitely there's metal in there for sure. So it's like, how do you blend those, theatrical metal rock? It's like, you tell somebody, what does TUK sound like? Theatrical metal rock with a little bit of jazz.
Post.
Add post to anything. It's like, you just kind of leave them confused. So I don't know if there is a... That's tough. Because I do get asked that a lot. I was like, what do we sound like? Rock?
Metal. No, yeah. I also don't like... It's more so in the metal genres. They're like super particular. There's all kinds of pre, post, and alt.
Thrash, speed.
All the genres. And it's like... You can't just be like one.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of how labeled and separate everything kind of is in some of these genres. So, like, if it could just be like one, that'd be nice. But because I don't want to say, well, we're a post theatrical alternative rock band.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
And I think that's kind of, at least my goal with TUK was to be able to write anything we want. Like, I don't want to just be labeled, they just write whatever solid rock. It's like, no, I want to do some metal. Chop and I are super interested in doing a more like a country, like a kind of country influence. Not like this new Nashville stuff. Like, I'm not putting 808s in my country, but like, I call it like, I think people call it like dark country. They call it southern rock. I want to have some more stuff like that, and then to write more rock operas, to write, there is some pop that I do like, and to have more of a rock influence on it. Like, I want to do all of these things. I don't want to just get labeled into this one thing. So I think it all starts with this next album. Like, okay, here's the solid foundation of what TUK wants to do. The story of Stereo City. Now we're going to kind of branch off into some other things. So, yeah, to say what we are is a little tough. But for right now, I think we'll just stick with rock.
Yeah.
It's solid.
Mhm.
We do what we do, and we're going to have fun doing it. And if you come see us live, it's going to be solid. It's going to be a good time.
Besides the live stream next week, do you have anything scheduled?
Currently, I'm in this email battle with 3 or 4 other different venues. You know how it goes. You have to email somebody at least 3 or 4 times before they reply back to you. But yeah, we're actually I'm currently in talks with Gibson Music Hall here in Appleton, emailing back and forth with the Lyric Room in Green Bay. If you want us to play at your local middle school, we do that too. Start a little tour. We like teaching the kiddos about rock and roll. That was pretty fun. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of venues. We have a whole list of venues we want to get into, and it's just a matter of between the 4 of us figuring out good dates to do that. So, but it all starts with reaching out. Hey, we're interested.
Emmy Louise Worm says that y'all alternative.
Oh, no, alternative.
Oh.
What is alternative? Alternative to what, I ask. Great question, though. Good question.
You know what? This album, I mentioned this to you guys when you got here, and you were unaware. But we've got at Code Zero Radio, if this is your first time hearing about Code Zero Radio, if you're tuning in to hear about TUK, you can head over to live.codezeroradio.com. We've got it's a phenomenal radio station playing tons of great music, probably a lot of bands you've never heard. And there's a top 20 that's put out every month it takes the 20 most played songs that includes requests and then just played on the shows. And I said to Andrew and Alan, this worked out nice because January, TUK had the #1 spot with Stereo City. I've got the chart up on the screen right now. If you want to keep Stereo City up there at #1, go to live.codezeroradio.com. There's a web player and there's a little request widget, and just type in TUK and then select it, and that all gets calculated into the top 20. So I thought that was pretty cool. Especially you guys didn't know about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks all the listeners keeping us up there. That's awesome.
If you've got people that haven't heard you guys that want to find out more, where would you suggest they go to find out or to purchase the record? Do you have a spot that?
Yeah.
And is it only released digitally right now as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We are working on getting some physical copies. But right now, I would say the easiest page is to go to our Facebook, TUK. You'll find us. It's the picture of the album. From there, you can find us on Instagram. We do have a Bandcamp where you can purchase the album. There's also a single up there, Malagueña, which is maybe a little more metal stuff if you're into it. We're on TikTok. We're there. But I think right now the easiest place is to find us on Facebook. It's where most of our followers are. And from there, you can find pretty much anything you want.
It's on Spotify and all that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, we're on Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff.
Andrew, Allen, thank you so much for spending the last hour with me and the listeners. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have on the burner, especially with Allen and the rest of the band's input on the next album.
Sure. Absolutely.
If you want to see them play from the comfort of your home, go to the Facebook page, and for only $5, you can purchase that, playing the whole album next week. You can't go wrong for that.
Absolutely not.
You've been watching Fox Cities Core here on WCZR Code Zero Radio. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, guys.